Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm really excited. We have Dame Clarissa Burt, and Clarissa is my first official Dame on the show, so I'm really excited. Clarissa, why don't you tell my viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, she originates as little Chrissy Burt from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Was born to blue collar folk on the row home, and at 5 years old, I was chosen to be Mary Poppins in the kindergarten play, Jeff. And and so after I got done with my rendition of Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, I got my first standing ovation. And from there, Jeff, I was hooked. I knew that a microphone and stage were going to be in my life in some way, shape, or form from there on out. I was just one of those kids, I guess. It was, I loved singing. I was always behind Mrs. Bailey. She was on the piano. I was behind Mrs. Bailey on my sit-upon. We had little sit-upons, and I would get my sit-upon, and then I would sit upon it, and then I would sit behind her and just blast out Puff the Magic Dragon, all the stuff that, was out at the time in 1964 when I was in kindergarten. And so it was just, I think it was written, kind of written on the wall. There was the writing on the wall that I really enjoy, just everything that is, stages, microphones, and being in front of people and doing what we're doing right now. Hopefully imparting messages that are helpful, that are educational, and that are inspirational all at the same time.
I love it. And you have so many accolades. I'm not going to list them all. We'll put them in the show notes. People can list them, but the three that stand out, this is gonna tell you so much about me. I geeked out over she's an author, a public speaker, and winner of the Celebrity Survivor show.
Yes. You want to hear about Survivor? So Nicaragua, 2010, Nicaragua, and I had lived in Italy for 30 years. So this was called the celebrity version, the Celebrity Survivor, if you will. And I was already living back because I lived in Italy for 30 years, but I was already living back in the States, and they were calling me to come do this show. And I kept saying, no, can't do it. Just don't want to do it. Listen, I'm done. I'm getting it, whatever. Anyway, long story short is I accepted and I went and wound up winning. But the cool thing about that all is, yes, it is all true. Yes, I was on the island for 2.5 months. The best part of it all is that you don't eat, and I must have lost about 20 pounds, which was amazing. It was the best diet ever, Jeff, best diet ever. And one of the things that happened there is that while I was on the island, I found a kilo of Coke.
Oh, wow.
So I'm, out and about. I'm one of the first ones up. I'm one of the older ones on at the time I was 53. And so I get up in the morning, and one of my jobs that I love to do is go around the island and find the wood, because you have to keep the fire burning all the time, because once you get the fire started, you have nothing to start. Like there's no big, flick of a bic or matches, or there's none of that. So I make sure you get anyway, long story short, as I'm doing that, lo and behold, I see this square brick that's all wrapped up in masking tape. Now, I don't have firsthand knowledge, but I've seen enough, movies to know what the heck I'm looking at. So I didn't tell anybody on the island because I didn't want to freak anybody out. I didn't tell any of the participants, but I got with production and I told them. And I said, listen, you got a problem and this is what it's about. And they went, oh, okay, no problem. Just give it to us. Well, hell no, I'm not handing you over a kilo of Coke in Central America. Do you think I have stupid written on my forehead? I said, look, I've hidden it well. nobody will ever find it. If you want to drop it right here, we'll drop it right here, and sense that no, I won't say a word, but you need to know this is going on. That's all. And they were like, oh no, we'll call the police. And so they did. They called the police. Now we had to find an excuse to get me off the island in front of all the other participants. So I, in my full actress mode, started to cry and say, oh my God, my grandmother, she's on her dying bed. I started crying and saying that my grandmother was sick. And it kind of was true, but she wasn't in the I lied about the hospital part. But anyway, it got me off the island. I made the verbal, doohickey. And the next day, I saw about 3 different men on this island that were looking for more coke. In other words, that is the trafficking point between Central America and Miami. So that's where that's the highway, the trafficking, the drug highway, right?
Yeah.
So if they're being chased, what do? They throw everything overboard, and then it floats up onto the circumspect islands, right? And so that was one of the more interesting aspects of Survivor. But yeah, it was tough. It's all true. You don't eat. It was tropical. It rained on us for 3 days straight, and there is no way to get dry. So if you want to be miserable, I mean, truly miserable, wear wet clothing for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like fun. And my wife, I'm going to ask my wife's question, because when we used to watch Survivor, the question was, people show up and they're surprised that they have to swim. And she's like, why wouldn't you learn how to swim before you go out on Survivor? So question, random, did Clarissa know how to swim when she got?
Oh, I knew how to swim at a very early age. I was on the swim team when I was a kid, but we never once. Oh, yes, we did. There was one exercise where we had to be in water, but it was up to our knees. We never had to actually swim on our show. But yes, we were in, and some of the kids would go out and swim. But the other thing was, if you wanted to wash your hair, you got rationed shampoo, and you could wash your hair like once a month. And with that, you'd have to wade out into the water and wash your hair right then and there. But it was still yucky. I mean, there was nothing good about it.
Yeah, I like flush toilets, hot and cold running water.
Yeah, none of that. Yeah, we didn't have any of that.
I love it. So again, I know you've done many, many other things. Let's talk about your book, because I feel like that's, just reading the title and looking at it a little bit. Let's talk about your book. So first of all, you gave me a new word, award winning. So thank you for that new word.
Of course.
So tell me about the book. How did it come about, and what's happening with that book? Is there a movie coming?
Oh, you're so funny. Well, listen, here's the book. It does have a blue cover, and that's for all you gentlemen, should you want to pick it up. And it is called The Self-Esteem Regime, a regime being an organized way of doing things. And that's exactly what I did with this book. You're not going to read about self-esteem. You're going to do the work for those that, that may need a little bit of assistance or guidance or help or support, especially in these days and times. I think that, especially in the last 3 years, there's been such a topsy-turvy, upside down world that was sort of thrust upon us on, from health all the way to now, a couple of different world wars going on. It's just a really, really uncertain time. And it's been a time of loss also. So if you think about the loss of jobs, money, identity, friends, family, hope, faith, in other words, there's just a lot of this instability, let's put it that way. So this is what I say, this is the clarion call that I make. And that is, it is your sacred duty to continue to work on yourself. And you may not want to, you may not feel that you need to, but it is your sacred duty to be, constantly working on personal development and self-improvement, to want to be a better person tomorrow than you are today. And sometimes, Jeff, that takes everything you got. It takes everything you got, because that is it. I understand that what I'm saying is like, oh, come on, Clarissa, get with the times, get with the program here. Nobody wants to hear all that. Well, this is exactly the time. It's the other thing, we've heard so many times, the millionaires are always made during a depression, or frequently made during a depression. It's kind of that same concept, if you will, when the times are tough, that's when you've got to get tougher. And my experience, and the one that I invite everyone else to do, is to continually work on yourself when it is, and it's a time that people are anxious and they're depressed and, you know, whatever else. If this is a time to really put on your big boy and girl britches and just continue to plow through. One of the things that scares me the most are the numbers that are coming out about our kids. And here in the United States, we had our Attorney General Murphy came out in April and said we've got a youth mental health crisis. The CDC, same thing. The numbers are not alarming. They're crazy numbers for our kids that are either anxious, depressed, thinking of committing suicide, or have committed suicide. And when I say kids, I mean, we're talking about middle school, high school, and college age as well. Dove Self-Esteem Project does an amazing job at targeting especially younger girls. And in April, they came, April is national, I think it's National Women's Month. And so they came out with, you know, our young girls, Jeff, that are living on social media, but living by the rules and regulations of social media, i.e. the filters. Those filters that are making you look 10 years older than you are and putting all kinds of fun makeup on you. And these filters are, there's one that they called out in specifically, and it's called the bold glamour filter. And this is a filter that would make you look like, you know, Sophia Loren, Jeff. I mean, it's one of those kind of things, you know. And
God forbid.
Yeah, you know, but you know what I mean? It's the, you know, we're teaching our 8-year-olds that they're not good enough the way they are. They're not pretty enough the way they are. They're not pleasant enough the way they are, that they have to have all this, you know, construct on and around them in order to be acceptable. And this is dangerous, because when they come to find out that none of it is true and that it's all perception, it's fun for the moment. Yeah, but it's not real. And so that gets to be extremely, extremely concerning. So we as adults need to have, again, our ear to the ground, know exactly what our kids are ingesting on these devices, and spend more time with them. Everybody put down. And I'm not a parent. I'm not a biological parent, but I have been a mother to many in many different ways. Get back to the kitchen table. Get your kids back to the kitchen table. Devices off. Leave them in your rooms. We're going to spend that 1 hour preparing, cooking, and eating that meal together. And I know parents are tired, and I get it. Maybe it's only 3 nights a week and not every night. You know, set up some new rules, put it almost, and it's a shame to say it this way, but if you got to put, you know, if you got to squeeze it into a calendar, do that just like you would a nail appointment, a vet appointment, a doctor's appointment, and a hair appointment, right? I'm not saying schedule your children. I'm saying if you're really that tight for time, make sure that everybody gets on a calendar or a schedule that gets you to that kitchen table.
Well, and I'm going to just say that as a parent, there is nothing more important in my life than my kids. And we came up with, I watched Social Dilemma, and, you know, you see the correlation between social media and suicide.
Yes.
And I was like, not in my house.
Right. Right.
So
cool. Love
we
that.
have tech-free Sundays, and
Love it.
spend all day Sunday, you know, whatever it is, we do it as a family, and we do it without tech. And I'm going to throw my wife under the bus. She usually cheats a little, and my kids will remind her and say, "Mom, put your
call
phone
her
down."
out. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And see, I
So
love that you need to scream from the rooftops from every networking group that you go into, every, you know, podcast that you're on. I would say that, you know, just keep reminding people that how important that is. You know, these devices are not babysitters, you know, they're not. So yeah.
And honestly, just anecdotally, I don't have the science, but the mood in my kids and myself and my wife, Sunday evenings, we're calmer, we're more relaxed, we're laughing more. During the week, they get busy with their devices, and my youngest has some anxiety, and you can see him winding up. And it's like, what other job do I have, or whatever task do I have that's more important than unwinding that kid and helping him thrive? So
And here's another thing, I'm not saying don't do Netflix and chill, like Netflix and popcorn or Netflix and dinner. That's all cool too. But isn't that a good time then to be snuggling on the couch with your kids? Watch something they want to watch and get that anxiety you're talking about could really be taken care of with 2 hours of just snuggle,
Yep.
or just, we're on the same couch together, or, whatever that is for you. But, that closeness is something that they cannot, and, we can't replace human touch. You can't replace human affection and attention. You just cannot.
There's no app for that. And you and I are going to
Absolutely.
be friends here because I think there's a lot to talk about. Um, Self-esteem is one of my favorite topics because, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not confident,
Yeah.
you're not bringing your best to the world. And I'm just going to say your accomplishments are phenomenal. I'm going to guess that a healthy self-esteem is part of your secret ingredient. Is that fair?
Absolutely. But I didn't always have that. They say frequently, and I think you've heard this many times as well, you always teach what you need to learn. You teach what you need to learn. And so, I came from a situation in my childhood that wasn't necessarily of the most stable. And I took that out into the world with me. And I realized the world was, was not tracking what I had learned from the familial tribe. I learned a lot of yelling and screaming and violence and, alcoholism and all of that. So when I got done with all the PTSD that I didn't know that I had, the depression that I didn't understand, and I was frequently called out, oh, you're so moody. You think? I mean,
Walk a mile in my shoes.
yeah. Well, back in the day, no, it was coming from my parents. It was in the
Yeah.
house where they created the turmoil, and then then you were berated for their turmoil. And so one of the most important things that I talk about in self-esteem as you move forward and out of the familial tribe doesn't mean you're not going to be home for Christmas dinner. Thanks for everything, mom and dad, but you need to then learn how to reparent yourself. And that is one of the most important things. When I was a kid, Jeff, we didn't have internet, we didn't have computers and cell phones, but we had bookstores. There was Walden Books, Border Books, and Barnes and Noble back in the day. And back in the back, there was a little couple, about 40, 50 books, and it was called Self-Help. And that is where I lived. And it was where I got, again, the guidance, the support, the solace, the explanation, like anything that I could I devoured it. And we're going back many, many years now. Now, Jeff, to my point, if the only book that we have here in the United States, now you guys have, I was to your bookstore. It's called, what's your book? Yes, I was to Chapters recently up in Toronto. But we have Barnes and Noble. And so Barnes and Noble now, if you take a look at the old self-help section, it's called Personal Development, and it is rows upon rows upon rows upon rows upon rows upon rows of books that are touting the importance of self-improvement. And so again, to my point, I invite everyone to, as a sacred duty, to work on your personal development, work on your self-improvement, want to be a better person more than you are today. It behooves you and everyone around you when you do that. And when you didn't come from a healthy family, it is on you to make sure that a healthy family comes from you. Right. So yeah, thank you. I love when to say the toxic stops here. I'm going to put on the big boy britches. I'm going to put on the big girl britches. I'm going to do the hard work. And by the way, when you do, there are 12 chapters in my book. And the first chapter is release. Get rid of the stuff that you thought was written in stone because you were told it was, and you found out it's not. Get rid of all of that. The second chapter is rebuild. So now there's you and your blueprint with your value system. Start with that. I often talk about value system, Jeff, and I say, give me your top 4 or 5 values. And usually you get deer in the headlights because most people don't really know what that is. And so, I'd like to talk about that more because I have done something, and I call it taking the high road. And that is honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor.
Ooh, I love it.
And so, thank you. And that is the hill I'm ready to die on. That is my daily and my life's blueprint, that if you are having any dealings with me at all, you're going to get brutal honesty. It's going to be radical, and it may not always be what you want to hear, and it doesn't always make me the most popular person in the room, Jeff.
Usually it's what you need to hear, right?
Yeah, yes. And so integrity, I mean, come on, integrity is it's everything we are, it's everything we bring to the table. It's that honesty piece for me is huge. I'm sorry, but honesty to me is it's one of those things that I will glitch on. If I find out you're not being honest, I'm sorry. You get, relegated to the back of the room, and you got to work your way back up, because
Yep.
once you've lied, cheated, or stolen, I wish you continue to do the work, because you obviously need to be doing more work. Gratitude, we all know what that is. Gratitude is, I can tell you 10 things right in this moment that I'm thankful for. And one of them is that fan that's going on right behind the computer, because it's still 100 degrees here in Phoenix. And so I can give you 10 things that I'm really grateful for you. I'm grateful for my breakfast. I'm grateful for a warm bed. I'm grateful for the sunshine, grateful for my family, my friend, all of that, right? And then the last one being honor. Boy, everybody thinks that's a military term. And I got to tell you, it is something that goes so much wider, broader, and deeper than, military. And it is, it is, who are you when no one else is in the room? Who are you when you're untangling the Christmas lights? What's going on there?
In
It's,
traffic.
yeah, in traffic, right? You know the drill, right? It's like, and the honorable thing to do is what? When you stop and you say, and by the way, a lot of people say, what would Jesus do? It's the same thing. What is the honorable thing to do? Let someone in. What's the honorable thing to do? Last year, my mother was in a near fatal car accident. She's 83 years old, and she already had some pre-existing conditions with lungs, and she then broke her sternum and ribs in the accident. I had to take 8 months off. I took 8 months off to take care of my mother. It was harrowing. It was difficult. It was an emotional roller coaster as a caretaker that I won't even get into here. But what I will tell you is, people will say to me, well, why did you? Because it was the honorable thing to do. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. She was on oxygen. She couldn't cook. She couldn't clean. She couldn't do any of that. She couldn't get herself to the doctor. Who's going to do that if it's not me? And I happily did that. Now, and I say this only to say, my mother and I never had the greatest of relationships. In fact, I would say it was strained at best for many, 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 many years. Now, I must say, because of the accident, we are really best of friends. We're really good friends. We enjoy each other's company now. We're having a really good time getting to know each other, not only as mother and daughter, but as women. And, to my, again, to my point, that is the reinvention. That is chapter 4 in my book. You reinvent yourself, you reinvent mindset, you reinvent your way of thinking, and then you can reinvent relationships as well. So yeah, the book, again, it's full of the chapters. Each chapter is its own microcosm, right? So it's like, as you go on, you will see a different you emerging, especially when you're doing the mirror work, when you're journaling, and pulling out the things that you have stuffed down so deep into the darkest places. When you start to do this, what they call the shadow work, you bring it up. I'm telling you, Jeff, life's a beautiful place to be.
And I think honestly, if you're not willing to do the shadow work, you're never going to be the you were meant to be. And for my viewers, just a heads up, Clarissa doesn't know this, but I run a book club. This is going to be required reading because, again, I believe, and this is not my quote, but I believe that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
So if we can help others, and, my biggest focus is, how do I help my kids have a healthy self-esteem? We have some very candid conversations. I feel like this might be part of our Sunday family time, because again, if I can do one thing on this planet and give my kids the gift of self-esteem, I don't have to worry about what's going on in the world. They're going to find a way, and find a way soundly.
So to your point, when you say that, do you understand that when you say hurt people, and I totally agree, do you understand then when I say it is now your duty?
Yes.
Because you've been hurt. That hurt you need to take and make that now your life's purpose in a way, or at least your personal development purpose, right? It is your sacred duty. Because my vision is to see all people in the world living as esteemed beings, and when you become one, that ripple effect, how when you start treating everyone with love and kindness and as though they were esteemed beings, you know, if you can treat, I don't know, the CEO of, you know, whatever huge corporate company, the same as you do the janitor at your kid's middle school, then you've really, you know, you've achieved. There's no difference to you at all. It's all, they are all one person with one. And when you realize, Jeff, in all of this, that no matter who you're speaking to, you are always and most likely speaking to and with their inner child.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. I don't care who they are. I don't care what position they hold. I don't care what's up. Everybody's got their self-esteem issues, and everybody has come to that table with something.
Yep.
Because nobody gets that. You don't, nobody's exempt. And again, remember that self-esteem doesn't discriminate, and it goes really broad and really deep, because we could talk about behavioral, we could talk about all kinds of things in behavioral. We could talk about generational trauma. We could talk about the imposter syndrome. Like, it goes so, there's so much to it. People, self-esteem, I know I'm not supposed to compare myself to anybody else. That's, yeah, okay, good. That's great. That's self-esteem 101. But guess what? When you keep telling me that, you know, you're comparing yourself to the Joneses, right? The grass is always greener. We've heard that, Jeff, how many times? Grass is always greener on the other side. Well, here's the deal about that. The grass is always greener where you water it. And was that indeed grass you saw, or was it AstroTurf?
Yeah. Or
Meaning,
something painted.
is it real? Is it perceived? Is it what your neighbor wants you to think it is? You know, so, and by the way, if it, you know, if they're successful and they're doing really well, be happy for them. Be happy for successful people. Learn from successful people. Jealousy has no place at all when you're talking about happy, healthy self-esteem. It just doesn't exist. Let that be a motivator if you know, if you wish, but never should you be jealous and hurtful toward others because they're doing well. You need, that's when you know you have reached a certain level of self-esteem yourself, is when you can be happy for other people's success.
Yeah. And, you know, I just want to roll back here, because I'm thinking about our youth. You know, the world had an off button. You know, I remember I'd come home from school, and, you know, for people listening today, you had to wait a week to watch the next episode of your favorite TV show. But, you
Yes.
know, magazines came to your house once a month, and, you know, people could compare themselves and feel bad about themselves. Now you think about social media, those filters, like, there's no off button anymore. It's 24/7. You know, the world will give you all the necessary things to humble you if you let it.
Yeah.
I love that idea of just like you're building your self-esteem. And, you know, my view of parenting is I owe it to my kids to give them the childhood they deserve.
Yeah.
It's not about me making amends for whatever my childhood lacked or anything like that.
Right.
It's about making sure my kids are thriving and doing well in the world. And, you know, it's just that aha moment that a lot of people think, oh, we have to, you know, do all this work and respect our elders. I don't
Yeah.
disagree. But in my youth, elders came before kids. You
Yep.
know, I remember sitting at my
Yes.
grandparents' house, hands in my lap, knees, you know, feet
Yeah.
crossed, and you're sitting there, kids are seen, not heard. And
That's right.
now it's like I tell my kids, if you don't feel right about something, speak up. You know,
Right.
I'm your voice if you need it. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And I love that. I think that's really great too. You know, if you were told as, and a lot of us, you know, came up under, you know, that, you know, be seen and not heard thing, which again, isn't necessarily, you know, the healthiest of messages to impart on your children. But if you get the message from your elders that you weren't good enough or that you weren't worthy enough, you're going to spend the rest of your life, you know, trying to prove that you are. And that's not a happy place to be either. I often talk about, when we talk about, I am enough. You've heard this, Jeff. I am
Yep.
enough. I am enough. You are enough. We are enough. Everybody's enough. Well, let me tell you that the definition, Jeff, of enough is only as much as is required. So by definition, the word enough isn't enough.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Here's the new mantra. And this is what I'd like to leave everybody with. And that as their new mantra. So write it down, sticky note next to your workspace, on your mirror, in the bathroom, whatever. I am so much more than enough. So much more than enough. And that is one of the most important things I think that we can, one of our most important takeaways today is I am so much more than enough.
I
Yeah.
love that, and I'm getting a sense that I know what's going to be on my Christmas list to send out to my clients and things. There's going to be a copy of your book.
Thank
I could
you.
talk to you all day. You are fascinating and fabulous.
Yeah.
Is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't?
Well, yeah. Well, you didn't ask me about the knighting thing that I know your wife
Oh,
wanted to know about.
yeah.
Let me just really quickly say that. Yes, I was knighted last year in Las Vegas by the prince himself. It's a royal order, and the royal order's name is the Sovereign and Royal Order of Cappadocia, Constantine the Great, and Saint Helen. Cappadocia is in Turkey, and Saint Helen was Constantine the Great's mother. And so this is it started back in the Byzantine era, and so it goes. And I was nominated and knighted last year. I believe for the most part it was for the social work that I had done, and for my 2 private audiences with Pope John Paul when I was living in Italy, for the social work that I do and had done. And so, yeah, let me tell you, it was a crowning moment. Let me put it that way. And it's one that it was one of the most, obvious and extreme honors that I've ever received. But,
I feel like
there's,
that whole thing would look fantastic on a business card, like a
yes,
really
yes, yes,
elegant business card, right?
yes, indeed, indeed.
And
Well,
I
true.
have to ask because my mom will kill me.
Oh,
She was a massive, massive fan of Pope John Paul II.
yes, yes.
What was it like to be in that man's presence?
I tell you, it was, first of all, I was living in Italy at the time. So, and in Rome. So I'm not going to say the Pope and I were homies, but, we lived kind of in the same town, the same city. And I was to the Vatican. So on so many different occasions, so many different times. And he was so beloved by the entire world. He was beloved by all. And that was rare, because there have been a couple of popes since then that cannot say the same. And so the idea that I remember being a girl in New York City working for a company in the garment district on 23rd Street, and I was just administrative assistant to the executive vice president. I was 19 years old, and I do remember that the television was on in my boss's office. They kept the TV going, and I could see it up on the wall from where I sat. And that was the day that Pope was shot. Never in my wildest dreams in New York City did I think I was going to become a model, and that modeling was going to take me to Paris. And then from there, it would take me to Italy. And then from there, it would take me to modeling, and it would take me on to television. And that I would start to work on television, and that I would start to produce Italian television, all while learning Italian, and then have the Vatican have their ear to the ground and their eyes on the same TV that I was on as a guest, and then be called in to be recognized by the Pope was really, it was a crazy full circle moment for me.
I love that, and thank you for that. My mom will be thrilled.
And
So
he was wonderful. Can I show you? Want to see the picture real quick?
yes,
Let me show you, Mom. Hold on. Hold on. I'm going really quickly. I don't know if you saw this or not. Did you see this yet? But let me show you. I keep it right here in my living room.
oh my God, love it, love it.
So
My
there you
mom
go. You
will
can
be
show
just
Mom.
so proud that I got to meet somebody who meant the.
Well, that's awesome. And the other thing that I did is at the Vatican, you can I bought a whole bunch of rosaries, and he blessed them. I had them in my pocket, if you will. So if you're being blessed by him, everything you have is blessed. So I had them blessed, and then I gave them out to my entire family, and both my grandparents were buried with those rosaries as well. So yeah, cool stuff.
That elevated you in the Italian community, I'm guessing. So
I think what it did was it might have elevated me then, but it really humbled me as a person. You know what I mean? It was like,
that
wow,
says so
this is
much
really
about you.
happening. It's really happening. And yeah, it was another really, really amazing time in my life for sure.
I love it. Now, full disclosure, I feel like my audience is going to ask me to have you back, and I would
Okay,
love to have you back. But
please.
first things first, we need to give you some value. So, how can my people watching this, how can they reach out to you? How can they work with you? How can they get to know the awesomeness that is Clarissa.
Thanks. Well, one of the cool things that we didn't talk about is that I will be now moving forward to retreats and some events that will be all, around the 4 pillars of self-esteem, which are look good, feel good, be good, and greater good. So I am now creating different products that will help us do all of those things. I'm creating a cosmetic line, and there are all kinds of different things coming down the pike. And we're going to be starting to do those events as well. So if they want to hit me up, they can find me on, on social, pretty much anywhere, and let me know also, that they're interested, and I'll get them the information out. The book is on, it's in Barnes and Noble, and it's on barnesandnoble.com, and it's on Amazon everywhere. Also Kindle and Audible has the book too.
Awesome. Well, Clarissa, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had a blast. I
Thanks,
really
Jeff.
appreciate your energy.
Thank you. We didn't talk about the rooster, but we'll do that next time.
Next time, ask us about the rooster people. Thank
Ask
you,
us about the
Clarissa.
rooster. Okay, Jeff. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.